Um, so welcome everybody, especially those that are on the East Coast time zone. My name is Ginny Chang and I'm honored to be moderating today. I was presenting probably at the second webinar about almost a year ago, but I've been involved with NAP since college, from attending and speaking at their conference events to being a board member for the NAP's SF chapter recently. I'm currently part of Zillow's talent acquisition team. And yes, we are hiring a lot of remote roles, as well as pursuing my passion as a career happiness coach on the side. Now, for those of you that are joining the Gateway Monthly professional seminar for the first time, just a quick overview. The first hour is focused on our wonderful speaker's presentation and about 15 minutes of Q&A. So make sure you, enter your Q&A and we'll be collecting that and reviewing that so we can make sure we try to answer some of those. And then the last half hour, if we have time afterwards, we'll be able to do a Zoom breakout session. And I'm assuming it's fairly randomly. So you might be able to, network with new people that you have not seen. Panney will actually be staying here. So you might end up being in a room with her. All right, so let's get started. Now, we're really fortunate to have today's speaker with us. I was telling them beforehand in the prep meeting that usually I do a quick intro before the presentation, but because her bio alone is so motivating for us to really diversify our passion, I'm gonna, focus on most of it. So Panney Wei, and I'm gonna have her wave in case you're not seeing her. All right, she's an award-winning motivational speaker specializing in using the power of the mind to reach your potential and empowering people to achieve their personal and professional dreams. She hosts a weekly podcast, See the Way with Panney Wei, on iTunes and other podcast platforms, featuring neurodiverse conversations, life lessons, and wisdom from top leaders and luminaries in various fields. Her previous radio show podcast, Positive Changes with Panney Wei, reached over a million listeners worldwide. She's also a Chief Empowerment Officer in See the Way Consulting, empowering individuals to unleash their fullest potential through hypnotherapy, coaching, keynotes, and workshops. I don't think we're going to get the hypnotherapy part today, but if you're interested, you know where to find her. She serves her community as a national senior advisor for the NAP for NAP, which is the National Association of Asian American Professionals, and the founder and founding national director for Women in NAP, a national women's leadership program, which she launched in 2008. She's also a board member for Collaboration, which is empowering artists in the media. She's a member of the PBS SoCal API Community Council and organizing committee for Asian Pacific Filmmakers Experience at Sundance. She's also on advisory board for the National Asian Artists Project. I don't know where you fit sleep in there, but she is also a lifelong activist. She's also served the Democratic Party as the state secretary for the Asian Pacific Islander Caucus of California Democratic Party, working to mobilize and develop the next generation of Asian Pacific and Democratic leaders, and was designated as Goodwill Ambassador of California by former Secretary of State. And sorry, it kind of froze on me. Panney is also the recipient of the Silver Award for the LA Business Journal's Asian Business Awards, a nominee for the Women in Business Awards every year since 2011. And in 2011 and 2012 was an outstanding 50 Asian Americans in Business Award from the Asian American Business Development Center. She's been listed as 100 most influential people in Taiwanese America by TaiwaneseAmerica.org, and the 2014 now is part of the organization Ascend as Top 40 Global Emerging Leaders Award. I'm not done yet. She still has hours. She's also a producer, an investor, and involved in projects that change culture and make a difference. She was part of the team that produced the hit film Linsanity, documenting the NBA basketball player Jeremy Lin's rise to NBA. She also holds business interests in Impossible Foods, the Momofuku Global Restaurant Group, and Chef David Chang. So she is also currently working on her self-help book on love and healing. Wow. Welcome, Panney.
Thank you so much, Jenny, for that awesome introduction. And for everybody here, all the leaders in the room, John Folk from NAP, San Francisco, Ramon Trang Tang, and also Jimmy Hua from Asian Leaders Alliance, and Brian Pong as well. Thank you so much for having me here. It's such an honor and a pleasure to return back to NAP. It's an organization that is so dear to my heart, and for all the API organizations that are helping to host and spread the word about this event and really partner together. It's really endearing to see especially at this point in our lives as a community of Asian American leaders, that we are all connected and banding together to be a stronger force out there. So I really hope that what I'm sharing today will help with whatever it is that you are struggling with or going through in your lives. Feel free to put some questions in the chat room. And I was asked today to talk about what it means to be a resilient leader, some of the values and the strengths, and some of the wisdom that you might need, some of which you already know, but probably at this time in our lives could use a little reminder. And this is mainly because of this crazy pandemic that we just went through, that we all just survived and we're coming out of. And when the pandemic hit, so many of us had to pivot in our lives, restructure our lives, and recalibrate, and at the same time sort of look at what it is that's more meaningful to us, because we had all this strange downtime. I kind of look at it as the silver lining of the pandemic, because this was something that affected everyone in the entire world, and because it affected everyone, we all had to take that time to sort of readjust what's happening in our lives, and also what direction we want to go in. So the downtime, I actually looked at it as a blessing. And I did notice with some of the people that I work with, people in our community and clients, because I'm a certified hypnotherapist, that people were getting extremely stressed out, and the pandemic triggered a lot of anxiety and fear of the unknown, which is very normal for all of us. And so now that we're coming out of it, especially for those of us who live in California or New York, or in states where the governors and the leadership was handling the COVID crisis well, that we're all kind of coming back to a place of normalcy. And that also will trigger other things it will trigger a little bit of the anxiety again, or the stress, or whatever it is, another unknown. And so I wanted to address some of that today, and then just remind all of you that we are here for you as a community, and we're all accessible to you, and we want you to succeed and be the best version of yourself. So very excited to share this presentation today. And I'm gonna share the screen right now. And if you guys have any questions, please feel free to raise your hand, and please let me know when you can see it. Okay, can you guys see this?
Yep, we see it.
Yes, we can.
Excellent. Okay, so today's talk is about being a resilient leader, value, strengths, and wisdom. And the first thing I'm going to jump into talking about, I'm going to share a quick quote. The human capacity for burden is like bamboo, far more flexible than you'd ever believe at first glance. And this is a quote by Jodi Picoult. And I like this quote because I think, being Asian American and in my field also being a storyteller, we draw on different themes in our collective unconscious, in culture, to remind us at these moments what it means to be a leader. And so I this quote about the bamboo, when you see bamboo in nature, it's strong and it's flexible. It's able to withstand changes. It can bend, it can move around. It's super resilient. But I also want you all to remember that all of us, as either whether you're an immigrant or you are descendants of immigrants, that when you're going through tough times, especially like this pandemic and how it's affected all of us in our businesses, that you can draw on the strength of your ancestors, all of your ancestors that have come before you, that paved the way from you, and draw on their wisdom and their strength and their hopes and visions for you, and that you're carrying that torch for them, and you're also creating a platform that of leadership and also resilience for the next generation. And every time for me, whenever I'm feeling down, or if I need a pick me up, I feel like I'm tired and I don't want to fight these battles anymore, and I need a little bit more extra strength or endurance. I'm a very spiritual person, and so I draw on some of my ancestors. One of my ancestors is Zhuo Zongtang. He's best known in American pop culture as General So, and he lived during the Qing dynasty, was part of the Qing dynasty imperial court, but he's best known in Chinese restaurants for the dish General So's chicken. But he was actually really real life general, and there was so much wisdom that he imparted to our family in many of his books, his philosophy, and his teachings. And anytime that I feel like I'm having a hard day, I remember what he did for his country, his people, from my family, and I draw on his wisdom and his also collective leadership abilities and skills that he passed down in our family. I imagine sometimes, like, how did he endure battle? How did he live day in, day out, and with that far-reaching vision for China? And how did he bring China into a better place and stop the Taiping Rebellion, which was, massacring so many people? So I remember those moments, and I think all of us, we have so much tradition. Our people in our country, we are the majority in the world. Even with all the stuff that's happening with Stop Asian Hate, you have to remember that we are the majority, and we're not only a majority in the amount of people, but we are a financial majority. We are the majority in terms of our contributions to American society, how we have been weaved into this country and this fabric of the economy of America, and that no matter what happens to us and whatever people say to us, that you have a right to belong here, to be the best version of yourself, and to continue on, and to not take in any of the negativity that you're feeling around you, because those are, from a psychological standpoint, the negative projections of other people. And so stay resilient and stay strong if you can. So that's what this first slide is all about. Some of these qualities of being an effective leader: the optimism, having eternal optimism and hope. If you are leading an organization or your own company, to be a pillar of that kind of strength. I know it's hard sometimes if you are the leader and the face of your company, and you are human, you have your own, issues as well, but it's really important for you to get the support that you need. So if you have your mentors and people you count on, so that every time you go into the office, or every time that you're presenting yourself out there, that you are just a model and a pillar of strength and leadership and optimism. Strength, of course, and number 3, ability to pivot, adjust, and bounce back. That's really important, because I think with what's happened with everyone's business is that we've all had to kind of adjust. So many of us probably depended on seeing each other in person to be able to work, to network, to negotiate things. Everything had to go on to Zoom. And so everybody had to pivot. So if you had for instance, like in my practice, I was meeting people one-on-one in person, also doing offline Zoom sessions. However, I had to completely move everything to Zoom. Every speaking engagement was over Zoom, as of this one. And it changed the way I did business. It changed the way everyone has done business. And so we have to think about the ways that we can pivot and we can adjust and we can recalibrate, so that there's sustainability in your business. One of the other core strengths is having resilience. And the reason why I put this in here is because resilience is not something that you're entirely born with. Some people are stronger than others in their natural makeup, but resilience is a combination of going through really hard times and being able to integrate all those lessons and bouncing back. And that gives you the strength that becomes resilience. And it's the attitude of, when you're going through difficult times, that you can accept the reality of what you're going through. So as a hypnotherapist, a lot of times when I'm working with people, they come into my office actually feeling like they're in utter denial of what is happening in their life, if something just completely blew up in their face. And what I try to remind them is you have to go through a certain, like 5 stages of grief and loss, be able to accept whatever reality that you're going through right now, and then being able to find a plan to pivot out of whatever's going on to start all over again. And so part of being a resilient leader is accepting the circumstances of whatever's happening in your life right now, whether in your work, personal or professional life. And even if you're upset about it and you want to, be really aggravated about whatever you lost, because so many people lost businesses during the pandemic, if you can accept it and not be in denial, then you're able to kind of put it back together again and start something new and start something fresh and start a new game plan. And it's part of being that resilient leader is sometimes holding yourself to a higher level of excellence than everyone else. And for you being that model of leadership, you will rise to the occasion and you will inspire all the other people around you like a phoenix rising out of the ashes. So I just wanted to throw that in there to remind everybody that even if you're going through difficult times, like, the crisis of the pandemic and coming out of it, that all of these things happen for a reason so that you can be a stronger leader, and everything you learn will benefit all the other areas of your life, especially your personal relationships too. And so I threw that little quote down there. Life doesn't get any easier or more forgiving. We just get stronger and more resilient. And that is true. In your life, you might see that some people have better cards that are dealt to them than to you, and that is just fate. In Chinese culture, we definitely believe in fate and yuan fin, and just acceptance of your reality of whatever's been given to you, and just know that everybody's on their own evolutionary path to be able to achieve whatever their goals are. So if you have this seed of like passion and purpose in your life, in your heart, that you want to instinctually put out there into the world, it's very important to be able to follow through on that and to take risks. And that's a mark of a great leader as well, to be able to take those risks and maybe even calculated risks so that you can move forward in your life and be that leader that you want to be, and also inspire the people around you. See, these are some of the strategies that they're simple, but it's worth sort of reminding, because I'm going to be sharing with you some examples of some companies that I worked with to especially help them pivot during certain transitional times in their careers and their companies' life path and journey, but also through the pandemic. So these are just strategies for change that you can apply to yourself or to your own business as well. And one of the things is, like, if you've had some mistakes and some things that didn't quite go as planned in your business, it's important to sort of let go of the past and really learn from those mistakes so that you don't repeat them again. Especially if you have your own business, obviously, there's so many elements that come into like running your own business. And I'm not sure how many people are entrepreneurs in this space today, or if you are, you're working for a company, but either way, for your own journey or the journey of your own company, important to sort of understand what you did in the past, letting go of the past, learning from those mistakes. And then as you pivot out of that, setting a vision for the future. So the reason why this pandemic has been a blessing in disguise is because there is a moment to be able to kind of do that and recalibrate and reset your goals for the future, especially right now as the world is opening up. This is a great time to sort of set a new structure for your business, restructuring it if you need to, and create a new personal mission statement, and then integrating that into a master game plan and a master vision board. I'm throwing in the vision board thing only because when I do workshops or retreats for different ERG groups for Fortune 500 companies, they love that I do that, and they love to do that. It's sort of a group bonding experiment and exercise. So you can do that in your company too, or with just even yourself. The reason why vision boarding actually works is because in neuroscience, how your brain works is your brain actually sees things in pictures. And what happens is when you plant the seed for change, you want to measure out and align what your heart is feeling, what your mind is thinking with the visual as well. And so the integration of all of that, that stimulates the senses, plants the seed for change in your subconscious mind, that, and then your body and your mind will align and start executing it out in the world. And this is just basic, neuroscience. In my work as a hypnotherapist, vision boarding is really important. You can do it a 3-5 year master plan, or even 10-year for yourself or your company, and then match it up with images. So sometimes when I do the workshops, we literally get poster board out and we're cutting pictures out of magazines that help to match the feeling and the motion, the vision that you want to have for yourself. And if you think it's too cheesy, you don't have to do it. But if you do it, you might surprise yourself. I have some things on my vision board that manifested in about a year or less, some that took 2 years, but everything on my vision board has manifested itself. And it's very kind of trippy sometimes that I even am surprising myself that it's happened. I remember I put a picture of Oprah Winfrey, and because I really admire her as a leader, and I just thought, okay, I'm going to throw this up there and let's see what happens. And within like 6 months, I was called in by her company, by the Oprah Winfrey Network, to audition for a position as a life coach for one of their newest shows. And our show went into development. And but anyways, what that story proved to me was that my vision board actually worked, because I never thought I would get called in by Oprah Winfrey, but apparently their VP of talent was a fan of my podcast at the time. At that time, I had a podcast called Positive Changes with Panney, and it was a show on KCA 1050 AM radio, and she heard it and she called me in. So these are just sort of like little examples of what you can do to incite the collective unconscious and this energy that we're all a part of, and that's connected to everything else and to source. And it's all quantum physics and drawing opportunities and things towards you. The other thing I'd love to do is thinking about a long-term plan for sustainability. So especially during the pandemic, like for instance, I'm gonna talk a little bit about how the restaurants business had to pivot. That we're looking at long-term sustainability. So now that we have COVID thrown into the mix, how can you make your business long-term that can sustain a crisis like this as well? So that means that no matter what happens, that you're malleable and flexible, and you have a backup plan, and you can sustain long-term and for the long term, but also through weather any storms at all as well. And the other thing that we can do also during this time is finding new ways to market yourself and your business, like using the power of social media and all the different platforms, connecting with amazing groups like NAP, Asian Leadership Leaders Alliance, as well as Asian Business League, and so many others, finding ways to be super creative on how you put yourself out there, and using social media as part of that if you need to. And a lot of people had to do that because we were all stuck at home. So these are just different ways that you can do it. If you have a product that you're promoting, finding really cool ways to collaborate with other people. I have a friend who is in the F&B business, food and beverage world, and he finds really interesting ways to collaborate with chefs to promote his products, his creativity, align people that are in the same space for good networking, and promote himself and his work too. And his what he does is actually he's like a food publicist. So finding different ways to collaborate with other people so that you keep your life inspired, creative, active, flowing, and getting into that deal flow. And the other thing is always, like, when you're out there, remember that you're your own brand ambassador. So for people who are leaders of different organizations, and you're running your own business, or you're working for other people, and whatever it is, you're always the best representation for yourself. You want to always put your best foot out there, and also create those ideas that can make you an absolutely indispensable part of any team. And so I just want to remind everybody about that, because you guys are all amazing people, and you're taking the time here to come to be with us today. So it's just a reminder that you're already amazing, and just keep doing and going for it. I'm going to share with you right now what I did with a client of mine who runs and owns this company called Lace Your Face. And these are masks. I worked with this client for about 3 years. And the reason why I'm bringing up hers because she was a really good example of pivoting. Now, she had a company first that she got an investor, one single investor, to actually invest like $1 million into her company, which did these threading. It was like a threading like contraption that would help to pluck your eyebrows and make it pretty, especially for women. And so the company did not do well. It actually failed. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because part of being an entrepreneur and being a leader is sometimes making those mistakes and being willing to fall flat on your face and to fail, and then getting yourself back up. And what I did with her was work on helping her do all the things I just mentioned, letting go of the past, letting go of the stress and the accountability of being accountable to that one major investor and some of the other smaller ones she had, and accepting the reality that the business did not work out, even though she was in different companies and stores like Nordstrom's, but it just didn't really take off. There was just something a little bit off. But that's the risk that every entrepreneur has to take when they put an idea out there and see if it gels in the marketplace. You don't know. But I remember when she was going through that, she was really hard on herself and really down. She was super, super stressed out. So she came to me so that I could help her with doing hypnotherapy. Hypnotherapy works with the power of your subconscious mind so that you can relieve stress and also really envision your future, because your mind is so powerful. So I helped her through that transition of letting go of this company, accepting the reality that it would have to end, and then coming up with the new plan. So she came up with this new plan because what I helped her do is figure out exactly what her passions are and her interests are. And her interests lied in the space of beauty, in the beauty world. And so she wasn't going to pivot away from that, because your time is very valuable and precious, and you should try to spend your time doing the things that you really love and that you have knowledge in, your skill set is suited for, and you really that you're really passionate about. So she stayed in the beauty space and thought, I think I'd like to do a face mask that is a little different than what is out there right now. And so she came up with this prototype and this idea where these masks are actually made of a stretchable sort of lace cloth material that you can put around your ear so it won't fall off your face. And it's actually really pretty. And it really is, it's a lovely product. And she created the new business plan. I remember she asked me, I have like 5 names for this company. What do you think it should be? What do you resonate with? Which name sounds the best? And then I helped her sort of get her confidence going so that she would feel comfortable to start pitching it around. Eventually, she ended on the show Shark Tank. And on Shark Tank, she pitched this product in partnership with her partner, and they ended up getting a deal through Shark Tank. And so they were able to sell it and launch it on QVC. And they got obviously one of the sharks to invest. And then of course, believe her and put all of their expertise behind her. But it took a transition, and it took her losing a business, losing a lot of money from the business, failing at it, and also disappointing people. But for her to reposition herself and repivot and take that moment, not to rush into a new business, but to take the time. And she took a couple months working with me to figure out what was her next game plan, and then structure this new plan and make it something really big. And then she went on Shark Tank, and then she got a deal. And so hers is a really a great story in terms of success at the end. But this whole period of time took a few years. This didn't happen overnight. So that's part of being a resilient leader, to also have the patience and the faith that whatever your dreams are, they're going to manifest if you keep setting your goals a little by little, one by one, reaching towards your goals. And then also being super open to unique opportunities like this client of mine, when the world opened up with these reality TV shows that were offering people the opportunity, like Shark Tank, to start their dreams and engineer their dreams, she took a leap of faith and went on the show and, presented her product and went out there and made it happen. And I've had since then maybe 2 other clients that have gone on Shark Tank as well to pitch their products, and they got deals also. They got deals offline because the exposure of being on television attracted people that gave them deals offline outside the show. So it's like having those sort of creative ways to be able to pivot and think about how you can remarket, rebrand yourself, and like get back into the game again. The other example I love is the founder of Spanx, Sarah Blakely. She has an amazing story that's super inspiring. She was really not happy in her job, and she decided she wanted to go into the marketplace where she could help women and, create these sort of products that would help women feel more comfortable when they're going to the workplace and wearing pants. And I'm sure the women in the room probably understand this. And I don't know how many of you guys know this story about Sarah Blakely, but she wanted to create a prototype where it's like a shapewear that you wear underneath your pants, and that would feel comfortable, but the feet would be cut off so that you could wear high heels or whatever comfortably as well. And so she created this prototype using only $2,000, pivoting out of her current position or job, leaving her job and going into entrepreneurship. And so she created this prototype, but at first nobody wanted to invest in her. Like everyone said no to her, except for one person that said yes. And she was so like at one point wondering if this was even the right thing to do. But she kind of threw it out there and asked for a sign from the universe that if I'm going to do this idea and this plan, I need a sign from the universe. And that day she happened to be watching Oprah Winfrey. Oprah Winfrey's show at that time had an after Oprah Winfrey show where she would just talk to the audience and answer questions. And Oprah came out holding her high heels in her hand, but she was walking out in her pants. She sat down in her chair, and when she sat up, the bottom of her pants rolled up, and you could see that there was a pair of pantyhose cut, but the feet were cut out of it. And Sarah happened to watch the show at that time and thought, this is it. This is my sign from God. And I'm gonna do this prototype. And that's what she did. She convinced one manufacturer to make the prototype and started pitching it to all the different stores and got them in different stores. And now she's a self-made billionaire. But it took many years, and her pivoting also into the space outside of shapewear into women's clothing is another way for her and what her company did to expand their brand so they have long-term sustainability, not just in the shapewear area, but expanding. And so I hope that everyone can think about different ways, not just so narrow-mindedly about what direction you want to go in, but finding ways to expand into other areas that you're passionate about. Kind of like what I've done in my career. I'm interested not just in helping people from a self-help perspective in personal and professional development, but I love to be a part of projects that are changing culture or making a difference, elevating Asian Pacific Islanders especially. And so that's why I'm involved in the F&B, food and beverage space, because I love the hospitality world. I love nurturing people in another way. I nurture people by doing what I'm doing right now and speaking to you, but I love doing it through food, through hospitality, through all. And so these are sort of some ideas for you to kind of expand your platform so that you have all these different ways to create different streams of income so that you're not just narrowly focused, but you're an example of a leader that is not only resilient, but also expansive as well. So I'm just wanting to inspire you to think larger and think out of the box. Another example of pivoting is what all the restaurants had to do during the pandemic and to lead themselves out of crisis. And you saw so many people lose their businesses, but some of them were able to sustain through this time, through this entire year where they had to be shut down, could not operate indoor dining. And I watched many of my friends who own restaurants and are in the F&B space pivot. A lot of them actually ended up launching their own products, putting out there all the whatever products that they're selling. With Momofuku, we launched soy sauce and spices, and went online. My friends who are part of the Soul Sausage Company, they went online through Goldbelly, so you can get their food delivered anywhere in the world. Like, so many different restaurant owners had to pivot. So they're finding ways to still be connected to the community, to still be of service, but also expand outside of just being able to serve people in their restaurants, but finding other ways so that they can stay afloat. And so they had to find ways to pivot and remarket themselves. So whether it was like new products, whatever they're packaging, like ramen or whatever, like my friend Ben Chung, who I just interviewed on my podcast, See the Way with Panney Way, he is part of the Kinja's dance troupe and one of the co-owners. They now actually have a noodle brand, actually. So they sell Kinja's ramen. So it's like finding these different ways that you're passionate about, and to keep your business afloat and keep it sustainable. We all saw it with so many of these restaurants. They're doing takeout, they're going online, they're selling their products online. And, like with Momofuku Milk Bar, they're selling all of their cakes and their cookies and everything online. And it's just different ways to stay afloat if should another crisis happen, should another pandemic or surge happen, that these businesses will stay afloat. So I think this is something that we're going to be living with. I don't think the COVID's going to go away. Like, I think it's just going to be something that we have to manage and maintain. For my friends who live overseas in Asia, some of them have been through SARS and the bird flu. So when COVID happened, they were laughing. They were like, we've been there, done that. We know how to handle this. It's like, it's just another pandemic. So I was so inspired by their attitude, because I thought they weren't freaking out. They weren't like, nervous or anxious. They were like, okay, we've been through this. We just have to find a way to stay grounded and pivot and keep things going. And I would love for all of us to kind of have that mindset, because I think we're going to have to get vaccinated again. We're going to have to get those booster shots. This is probably not going to go away. It's probably going to be affecting the rest of the world, even though America's handling it very well right now. But just be ready for the future, that it's a possibility, and plan for it. So the other thing I wanted to bring up before we close today is some tips to stay grounded. Like, as we come out of this pandemic, these are things that will help you be a resilient leader, so that you can be the model that you wish to see in the world, but also for the people that you serve. One of the main things that I see people do is go into something called hypersuggestibility. And that's like when you are watching way too much news or too much negative stuff on the internet or in the media. And you go into this place called hypersuggestibility, which is a place of overload. Your mind is totally overloaded, and you're going to have trouble sleeping at night if you go into hypersuggestibility. That means that your brain is so overloaded that it's going to take in all of the news as fact and not be able to filter out what's fact and what's fiction. And so it's really important to try to avoid hypersuggestibility by not watching the news too much, and be super careful about the type of news that you watch. So for me, I only watch the news like once or twice a week, just to get the basic headlines, and then I shut it off. And I'm careful about the sources of where I get my news too. So I'm looking at neutral sources like PBS or CNN is pretty okay, but I'm very careful about what I'm watching, so that that I'm not getting propaganda, and that's super important. The other thing that's good to do, especially to stay resilient, is to make sure that you stay calm, and throughout any part of your day, that you take a moment for self-care. You nourish your mind and your body through some type of meditation, or relieving stress, like through exercise, and any type of deep breathing technique to shift any negative energy in your body. Because when you're having a super stressful day, it stays lodged in your body. And even if you don't know it, the science proves and shows that it stays in your body, and it stays in your neurochemistry chemistry, but also your parasympathetic nervous system. And so for leaders, all of us, we have to do some type of self-care during the day. And I would make that a priority and put yourself first, because if you're not at your optimal best, then you're no good for anybody else. And all of us who are parents totally know this, because we need to take care of ourselves so we can be present for our children and for the people that we serve, our mentees and all, your students and your employees. So make sure you do that. Exercise, I'm a big proponent of that, because it strengthens your body and mind, but it also releases like happy hormones like norepinephrine and dopamine that naturally run through your body, that helps to stabilize and also elevate your mood. So if you are just like feeling low, exercise is very helpful to boost your mood and your hormones. Also, it creates a sort of the natural sort of like high and energy that actually inspires ideas. I get so many ideas when I'm like on the treadmill, or if I'm running, or if I'm going for a nice quiet hike, that come in when my body and my mind are at peace, and doing some type of exercise and movement really inspired ideas. And that's and I would say for the clients that I have that are entrepreneurs, that's when their ideas come. My clients who are writers, they get ideas when they're actually exercising. Super important. The other way to stay resilient and grounded is, obviously eating nutrient-rich foods, protein, especially for energy. This is something I learned as a competitive figure skater in my youth, competing on a super high level. We don't do carbs for energy. We do protein. Protein is stored in your body in a better way, that it's long-term and sustainable, gives you good energy. And this is something I give to my first-time parents as well, because they are sleep deprived. And for all of you entrepreneurs and people who are working your ass off, super important to eat protein for your energy. And establishing a consistent routine. And this is a time now in the pandemic, like coming out of it, that we can live with more intention, and we can live with more, in terms of like having a consistent routine. It's actually really good for your brain. So part of being a great and resilient leader is having good, positive mental health. And so when you establish a routine for yourself, your body and your brain understands this consistency, so that even if the world is blowing up, like the pandemic happened and the whole world changed, you are grounded at home, and your consistent routine reminds your brain that everything is okay. And that's super important to do, especially through any crisis, so that you take you take that moment to stay calm and grounded. Sleeping well, resetting yourself, and starting new goals during this time is a great time right now. And of course, staying super positive, because coming out of this pandemic is a long game, and we're all going to be here to support each other. I would say, especially in the API community, we definitely want to stay positive and help each other through this moment in our lives. I'm putting this next slide about hypnosis for those of you guys who asked me about it. I am a proponent of this because it's a very fast way to really plant the seed for change. It's what I've done for many of my entrepreneurs that come into my office, and many of the athletes that I work with, to help stay strong and resilient. Because a lot of the times when you're going out there and you're pitching yourself in the world, it's a little bit of a social game that you're playing, and you're dealing with lots of people's egos, a lot of people's agendas, especially now that things are opening up. We're going to be back out in the world and we're socializing with people. You want to have really good, positive mental health and well-being. So you want to be able to stay on top of your game and be able to pivot and be able to interact and communicate with anybody, from people who are, just starting out, who are your mentees, to people who are super high level, or the VCs that you want to get invested into your company, to stay grounded and have clarity. And what I did with my client who runs her face mask company lace her face, is to do hypnosis to help her have increased focus and concentration using the power of her mind, so that she's always very relaxed when she's in these big meetings, but she's also super mentally alert at the same time, and she's able to trust her instincts, her ideas flowing, almost channel the words that come right out of her mouth, and using this as a tool so that she's always effective when she's out there, and she stays grounded and, you know, obviously very positive through any of the ups and downs with her company. What I do is I work with clients through a series of inductions and relaxation techniques to help them sort of focus on what your goal is. And sometimes what we do is we actually use hypnosis to kind of forecast the future, because in the brain, what happens in the brain, and especially this is what you can do, continue to do in being a resilient leader, is understand that when you're doing things like meditation or hypnosis, you are activating a nonlinear reality in your mind. So in your mind, there's no such thing as time. Past, present, and future all are interwoven and interconnected. That's the magic of it. And that's kind of the cool thing about it. So right now, you and I are talking in a linear reality. So it's like 6:20 p.m. right now, and I'm talking to you. We're only using 20% of our brain. When you're going into the subconscious mind, you're using 100% of your brain. You're activating all the other parts of your brain, all the logic, reasoning, willpower, decision making that make you a resilient leader, and you're accessing all of that. And so when you go into that space, you can actually do imagery experiences that predict things in the future, that you can draw things that you envision into your future. You can let go of the past, and you can stay perfectly in the present. And that's what I did with my client with the face mask business, because she was letting go of a business that didn't work and entering a new space. And she needed to feel hopeful about what her new product would be and how she could manifest it and envision it for herself as if it already happened in reality. And so that's the power of being able to use your mind to activate goals, to stay grounded, and to forecast your future so that you have the vision for yourself and stay resilient as a leader. Some of the things that I do specifically for people who are leaders and business owners is basically the things that we have to do every day when we're running organizations like NAP or Asian Leaders Alliance or Asian Business League. Like, you have to have a success mindset. You have to be confident. You have to, relieve yourself of any fears, because you have to be that leader that people want you to be. You have to have that, those ideas that come with innovative ways to program whatever you're doing in your nonprofit or your ERG groups or whatever it is. You want to envision the future, and you want to create change. So if you see that there's a problem in your organization or your company, or even a problem with an employee, you want to inspire and eliminate any bad habits or change, and create change, positive change, so that the company's not being brought down, and the things and the morale's not being brought down. You want to keeping that going, keep the mood up. And so and reduce any types of PTSD or stress. And that's what I have done with some of the entrepreneurs that I've worked with. And I hope that some of this has helped you guys today. I'm going to open it up for any questions and answer whatever I can. If Ginny, if you want to, help with any of the questions, yes, that would be great. But this is my contact info. And just so you know, so this is basically my presentation today, so that you guys can be reminded of the things that you can do. But if you have any more detailed questions, please feel free to reach out to me. You're welcome to message me or email me, because this is a very general presentation, but I'm happy to help you all one-on-one. And for everybody that's here or as part of NAP or Asian Leaders Alliance, or even all the other organizations that are part of this group today, just mention that you saw this presentation or are part of the organization, and I'm happy to talk with you and offer a complimentary consultation as per this talk today. But I hope this has all helped you. And if anybody has any questions, I'm here for you right now.
Thank you, Panney. Hello. I actually just put your information, your contact and your LinkedIn information on the chat. So hopefully everybody is capturing that. So thank you so much for your passionate and relevant presentation, for your examples of pivoting through resiliency, and really the theme of having the right mindset, finding ways to give back, and supporting each other. So all super important information. So yes, we do have a few questions, and it's about 6:24, so I think we can squeeze in 3 to 4 if that works. And then I'll let Ramon kind of guide us the next section of breaking into groups. Okay, so the first question is about pivoting. This person asked, can you talk about pivoting through career transitions? How to incorporate the risk involved and to ensure you have a roof above your head?
Okay, good question. I would say I'm a person that takes calculated risks. So whenever I've pivoted and transitioned from one space to another, for instance, when I used to work in the entertainment business doing business development, I pivoted out of that and I went into a completely different career, into hypnotherapy and mind-body wellness space. I had a game plan for myself. I decided obviously needed to go back to school so I can get proper credentials. And it was a space that I really, really am passionate about empowering people in our community, especially. So I created a plan for myself, and I didn't quit my job right away. I sort of put the feelers out there. And I think part of being able to pivot is, I think it's actually having courage and faith and belief in yourself, and also being open, having the attitude that like life is an adventure, and being very open to the possibilities, despite any fear of the unknown. So I would say, like, if you have a good mentor, this is a good time to find a good mentor in the area that you need or like to work in. But I also think it's like good to sort of take those steps to transition out of whatever it is that you're doing into the new space. But do it like logically, and unless you're really suffering in the job. But I would say maybe practice having a positive mindset attitude and endure a little bit until you pivot out of it completely. I always say, like, you could jump cold turkey, but I almost feel like this question reminds me of like the actors that I work with. A lot of them, they have day jobs, but but their passion is being an actor. And I always say, don't quit your day job quite yet, because, it's not wise, because the reason why is because money begets money. In law of attraction, quantum physics, the energy of having money, the energy of abundance and flow is sort of that cycle that you want to get in. So like, as you transition out of something, make sure you have something planned already. Then you can seamlessly move into that. And it's like what I tell my actors that I work with, like, don't quit your day job right away, like have that grounded source of income or whatever, because it will make you less desperate when you go out to your auditions and interviews, because you already have something, and you can leverage all of these relationships. So I would just say, I hope I answered your question, but take a calculated risk here in this case, because we still are coming out of the pandemic. And I think it's important to be grateful for the jobs that we do have, because so many people lost their jobs. So, be super grateful for what you have right now as you continue to look for other things in the future. Hope that helps.
Great, thank you. Then since we talked about resiliency really for leaders, what are some of the important attributes you're seeing what successful leaders should be today and for the future?
So some of the attributes that leaders have. Okay, they're super innovative. They have this quality about them that they're willing to take risks. They have that type of acumen where they want to be excellent at something. So they're willing to put in the hard hours and work those long hours to get those 10,000 hours to make you an expert at something. They're willing to do that. They're the type of leaders that inspire others to lead. So they're not narcissistic in any way. They don't need to grab all the attention. In fact, they're actually very humble people. Those are the type of leaders that I love the most. And they are amazing centers of influence in terms of like how they multiply, how they connect people, how they bring people together, how they expand and grow. Like and they have this like natural energy and resilience, and also like zest for life that I think is so important for anybody out there right now at this time. I think I feel like those are like sort of the best qualities that I've seen. They're also really generous, very generous with their resources, their time, their energy. They're strong, like you can't mess with them. You don't want to mess with them. They have this strength about them. You don't mess with those guys, but they're very generous. They have this like abundance mindset where they know that whatever they put out there, they return. And I love those type of leaders because they're not selfish about their resources and what they have and who they are.
Great. I think a lot of that combined, just leaders who are constantly learning and wanting to, do more and give back. So that's great. We have time for just 2 quick questions left. So the first one I think was added about what would you recommend to find the best mentors? What do successful leaders look in mentors or mentees?
So I am a mentor, but I also have a mentor. And I think when I was looking for a mentor, what my mentor told me that made her accept me as her mentee, because when I first met my mentor, she was not taking on any extra mentees. And I've now been with her for over 15 years now, probably going on 17 now. And she's someone that I admire, not only in her professional life, but her personal life. So she's also a fellow hypnotherapist, a teacher, a speaker like myself, but she's a mom as well like myself. And I admire her in her life, her personal and professional life. So when I'm looking for a mentor, I'm looking for somebody that I can learn from all different areas. And she's the person that I talk to if I'm, struggling with something. Because even for me, like, every leader has their own mentors because we're constantly learning and growing. Every therapist has their own therapist. Like that's just how it works in terms of the cycle of knowledge. So I think especially for the API community, our mental health is so important. It's something that culturally we don't really talk about, but it's very important, especially now for us to have the people to lean on. So I would say, if you're looking for a mentor, look for somebody who is great at their particular field and established and start courting a relationship with them by asking them to take them out for lunch and being super enthusiastic about yourself and your life and your career and your direction. And they want to invest in people who want to invest in themselves and believe in themselves because they don't want to waste their time. So if they're going to put the time in you, you have to show that you are very earnest about using their time wisely too. And what I look for in mentees is the same thing. I'm looking, if I'm being asked to mentor somebody, it's the same thing. I want somebody who's able to take in information and really learn from it and listen, because I'm not going to waste my time mentoring somebody that doesn't listen to my advice, doesn't take my advice. What is the point, right? So, somebody's willing to learn and somebody that I feel like is going to go someplace. And so like my client that I mentioned earlier today that does, the face mask, she was one of my mentees too. So, and it took a couple years working with her and she got to where she wanted to be and made her dreams come true. Now she's happily married, has children also, and has an amazing business. So I'm looking that's what I'm looking for when if I'm meeting with somebody who wants me to mentor them, I'm looking that if we're also a personality match too, and we have rapport. Because if we're going to spend time together, we might as well have fun doing it too.
Great. So. Well, last question. Speaking of fun, I mentioned in the intro that you are currently writing a self-help book during the pandemic, or maybe you started during the pandemic. Can you tell us a little bit more and let us know?
Yeah, thank you for asking. It's a book on love and healing. This version is for women, but I'm doing one for men. And it's about starting over and recovering from a breakup or any type of loss, but actually finding your own self again, and activating your love of self so that you can stay completely empowered on your journey when you're out there looking for love, or in terms of like how you even lead your lives, and also so that you are a model of being an amazing leader as well, and somebody that loves their life and loves to share it with people, and it can track those type of people that are in alignment with you. So this book is this first one is specifically for women, and helping people on their journey towards self-love. So yeah, it's got some helpful tips. You know, according to my agent, it's quite humorous too. It's based a little bit about my own story. It has some techniques that I share as a hypnotherapist on how to make a positive change in your life as well, and keep you on your journey.
That is wonderful. So thank you so much. So before we break into, for those of you that are new, first time in this webinar, we get a chance to do a breakout session with, in this case, probably 4 to 5 people. And Panney, you decided to stay with us, so we really appreciate it. So maybe 3 or 4 of you might end up being in her group of circles, so that I would consider. I hope you guys are manifesting that, like she said, you know, drawing the vision board. Ramon just also sent some information about the 3 different organizations that are supporting these free webinars and bring people together. So feel free to learn more, join, participate, all of that.